So, the news that's coming out and will probably more than likely be confirmed later today, if not already in Las Vegas, is that at the next Crown Jewel event in Saudi Arabia, that we're going to get Roman Reigns defending his undisputed title. Or we might just get him defending one title, depending on what they do and announce at the press conference in Vegas later today. But we do pretty much know that Roman is defending the title. What we don't know, or who we didn't know he'd be defending against, is an entirely different scenario, because apparently this whole situation started on a podcast that his opponent has. The podcast in question is called Impulsive. Impulsive. And yes, just by that name alone, you know exactly who his opponent's going to be. That's Logan Paul. And this would be Logan's third match in with the company. And I already know and see basically a lot of people shitting, excuse my language, but shitting all over this match. You know, because even though Logan Paul, whether you like the guy or you don't, has put in the work to show that he does have a passion for this business. He is someone that grew up as a fan and wants to be part of this and wants to help improve it. I know the idea of Logan Paul facing Roman Reigns isn't very appealing. And I know a lot of people feel like what's going on here is Logan Paul is taking an idea from his brother Jake Paul and getting in the ring with very notable names in the wrestling business, just like his brother does when it comes to boxing. And, you know, that's fine. You know, he wants to take inspiration from his brother and do that, that's okay. That's fine by me. But still, it's like, you know, not a lot of people are very fond of this idea. Despite the fact that it's going to be part of a show that not many people consider to be canon. They don't. Even though pretty much WWE has kind of proven them wrong at times, and there have been moments at these Super Show and at these Super Showdown and Crown Jewel events to prove otherwise, including Elimination Chamber, which was also in Saudi this year. So they can prove otherwise. They can prove to be more than just an average, over the top extravagant house show live event, just taking place in Saudi Arabia. They've proven that. They've proven that sometimes anything can happen, even though they don't carry it on the following week on Raw and SmackDown. But again, a lot of folks are not too keen on this idea. People I follow here on YouTube, like JD and Just Alex and Solomonster, they're not too keen on it whatsoever because, because to them it's like, Logan Paul's a massive, influential, celebrity when it comes to the internet and YouTube and all that. But, and yes, he has put in the work, but, in his short, time in WWE, but what has he really done to deserve this opportunity? And the fact that you're putting him in the ring against somebody that by de facto-ness is going to be the babyface. I mean, the reaction he got tonight on SmackDown, or last night I should say on SmackDown, should be an indication that fans aren't going to buy into him as a babyface. And the fact that by putting him in the ring with Roman and everything, who is supposed to be the heel but is uber over with the crowd, he's a heel that, you love to hate and everything, or you hate to love, however you want to look at it, you hate to love. You put him in the ring with someone like, Roman Reigns, and you're basically making, like I said, making Roman the de facto babyface. You're turning him and by extension the bloodline into a babyface faction, and you're not supposed to do that. But yet you want to put Logan Paul in there, and that's pretty much what's doing it. And unless you could find a way to really get the crowd to do a 180 and cheer for Logan, boo Roman, I will admit that from a crowd reaction standpoint, this is not a good idea. It's not. It's not a good idea. Now, I do know, and now this is just my personal opinion, but I do kind of know that there's another reason why a lot of folks are not too fond about this. And it's not because, Logan hasn't put in the work in his short time at the company. He has. It isn't because he's not just a long-time fan. He is. And it's not just maybe he's taking advice from his brother and stepping into the ring with some of the more notable names in the wrestling business, the WWE game, if you will. He is. Just like his brother has in boxing. But the other reason people are not fond about this is because they don't know what WWE is going to do. Even though a lot of folks, like let's say Just Alex, of Just Alex's world, will say that this is not canon, it's not going to count, so it shouldn't matter. But like I said earlier, they've proven us wrong with this stuff. And I think a lot of fans, that are not fond about this, know that as well, because they know that WWE will do whatever they have to do to make the Saudi prince happy, to an extent, as well as, do the unexpected. But what I think they also fear is that Logan Paul probably has a clause in his contract. A clause to where he can, and this has been proven. This has been proven in the past. He can, have himself booked to go over certain talent. And I think what some people fear with this matchup, even though they're not fond of the idea, period, whether Logan Paul has been in the business 10 years or whatever, the reason that the other legit reason, in my opinion, from what I can tell, that they're not fond about it is because, like I said, they fear Logan has that clause in his contract that will allow him to get booked over certain people, and because he might have something like that, not saying he does, let me make that perfectly clear. I'm not saying he does, have something like that in his contract, but there are some people that are conspiracy theorists, as a lot of people have talked about lately when it comes to certain things, but mostly wrestling conspiracy theorists, that will look at this, kind of come to that conclusion that Logan probably has something in his contract that will allow him to be booked over certain talent. And what they're afraid of is that Logan Paul will have himself booked to go over Roman Reigns. Be the guy that beats Roman Reigns for the undisputed title. And that's what they don't want. They don't want to, see something like that occur, because if it does, to them, you're going the David Arquette route that WCW did. You're putting the belt on somebody that doesn't, has, in their mind, doesn't deserve it, hasn't truly earned it, and is nothing more than a celebrity who made his name off his brother, made his name off his internet, status on YouTube and Twitch and all that. You're putting on someone that, in their minds, may say they are a fan, may say they want to be part of this, and may put in the hard work, but deep down, they don't really care. They don't really care. So, you have that fear factor in there by a lot of people that don't like this, that knowing WWE and maybe knowing some of the steps that Logan Paul, put in, like perks and steps he put into his contract, that this might be one of them, that he gets booked to go over certain talent that he chooses, and if he chooses, hey, I want to go over Roman Reigns and beat him, they're not going to like that. I mean, even if you have Roman get disqualified or counted out, to them, it's going to make Roman look weak and stupid because of the fact that he lost to someone like Logan Paul when he shouldn't have. So, I can understand, and from what I'm seeing, why people are not fond about this. It isn't because they feel it's a bad idea. It's not because they feel, okay, look, Logan has put in the the work and everything, but he's not ready for this kind of an opportunity, and you shouldn't be going this route because you have no one left. It's not none of that. It's the fact that they fear deep down Logan Paul could be, if he even if he has it put into his contract when he signed with the company, he could be booked or have himself booked to go over Roman and become champion, and that's the last thing they need. I mean, they complain about Roman being a part-time champion now. To them, if Logan Paul gets it, that's even worse. That's even worse. Unless, unless the idea is for Logan to beat him, but then for Logan to come out on Raw and SmackDown and vacate both belts. And say, look, the only reason I challenged him to a match for the title was so that I can separate these two back into individual belts, and that each show can have their own champion again. And if that's the case, fine. That could lead into a lot of great possibilities. One, you have a tournament on both ends of the spectrum that culminates, in two separate matches at Survivor Series. And we get champions going into Mania. And heck, you could still have Roman, regain, let's say on the SmackDown side of things, the Universal title, and you're still on track for him and The Rock at WrestleMania. So that might be another reason they're doing this. But the question is, how do you make that happen if pretty much a lot of people feel Logan Paul doesn't even deserve this opportunity, or even believably they feel doesn't even stand a chance against Roman? And storyline wise, they could book it to where Roman maybe gets too overconfident, underestimates Logan, and he gets caught. He still looks strong in the end, but he gets caught, and he loses both belts, and then he enters himself into whatever scenario, tournament, match, whatever, on the SmackDown side of things to crown a new Universal Champion. He inserts himself in there, wins the belt back, and then from a storyline perspective can act like the whole Logan Paul debacle at Crown Jewel never happened. Kind of, share the sentiments of a lot of us fans that the Crown Jewel thing never occurred. It doesn't exist. It's wiped from history. They could do that. But, and even though that could help, separate the titles, and by extension, in a way, not make Roman look weak, it's, even though they could do that, and, that sounds great, that sounds all good in the end, it's something that fans don't want to see, but they fear, because of who he is, that they fear it could happen because he might have had something like that added into his contract when he signed. Like at SummerSlam, did he have to go over The Miz? No. He didn't have to go over Mike Mizanin. He could have had Mike beat him, and then you could have done something with Logan to where he's like, okay, I got full of myself, I got over cocky, so I'm going to do better, I'm going to train better. You could have done that. But that didn't happen. Instead, you had Logan Paul go over him despite all adversity. Even with AJ Styles' help, you had him go over, The Miz despite all adversity. And you had him do it by using The Miz's own finisher on him, the Skull Crushing Finale. Now, did that have to happen? Did he have to be booked to win? No. Was it WWE's idea to book him to win over The Miz? Maybe. Maybe it was something that was in the works for a long time. We don't know. Or was it something that he, decided almost at the last moment, hey, I want to go over The Miz instead of Miz going over me because, hey, I got this perk in my contract that allows me to choose who I go over in certain matches throughout my duration here. That might be something that happened too. And if that latter part that I mentioned, was the case for him going over The Miz, where he basically said, hey, I'm going to use this perk I have to book myself over The Miz at SummerSlam, that's what a lot of fans fear could happen, if that is the case, at Crown Jewel. Even though a lot of people write off Crown Jewel as a non-canon show, even though some significant moments and title changes have occurred at that event. Let's not forget, Bray Wyatt beat Seth Rollins for the championship. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, beat him for the championship. So let's not forget that, at Crown Jewel. But is this a good idea? From a publicity standpoint, it probably is. You want to get eyes on the product, as much as you can. You want to get people to, tune into Crown Jewel despite their protest of of this event happening. So you want that to happen. You want that to occur. But honestly, I do agree that it is a little too soon. It is a little too soon. And I do agree that, it's that when you look at the matchup on paper, yeah, it might be decent. It might be decent. It might surprise a lot of people. But that it is the kind of situation that you fear, could be, could be detrimental to someone like Roman. Even if it doesn't make him look weak in defeat, if that happens, it still could be something that's detrimental. And even though they could act like I said, it never happened, if he goes on to, regain the Universal title, at least in some capacity, we as fans still know it happened. We still know it happened. So this is a comp, as they say about Roman Reigns' title reign, and trying to make him look strong going into Mania against The Rock possibly, is a complex situation. This here is a complex situation in itself. Because, yeah, Roman honestly is going to, should and is and probably will go over Logan Paul. But still, it's a situation to where you never know. You never know with someone like Logan Paul and, what he may have added into his contract that may allow him the opportunity to go over Roman. You never know. But we'll have to see what they do. We'll have to see what comes out of the press conference today, if not already. And see if maybe it's just one title they go with or both. We'll see what happens. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chat, super stickers are open during the premiere here, as well as super thanks afterwards. Check me out at Venmo at Brian-Romer-2. Cash App at BWRoses98. As well as check me out at my Patreon at BWRoses at the $1, $3 tier. Also check me out at my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also check me out at VENMO at BW Roses for content you can't get anywhere else. As well as check me out at my BW Roses discussion podcast at all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this whole situation. What do you think could be the possibility here? Do you think it's something that we should take seriously? We should be concerned about? Or do you think it's just something they're doing because, hey, we got to get people's attention on Crown Jewel despite the protest? Let me know down below and in the live chat during the premiere. And I will talk to you all later.